Hi everyone, we're at the legendary St Albans property meet, June 2025. It's been a little gloomy and we've got Julie to kick us off, and unfortunately it's our final one. We've even got the cake. I hope you got the cake in. We're enjoying that. Julie has been a legend and we will hopefully keep on, I was going to say harass her, getting information for our audience, but she'd love sharing. Julie, thank you so much. Julie, a couple of big topics, and we've been attacking this renters' right bill. Number one, big topic.
So the big topic is rent in advance. So basically the situation we have with the renters' rights bill is landlords will no longer be able to take rent in advance.
How much time is that? 1 month or?
Yeah, so at the moment a landlord can take 3, 6, 12 months up front if they want to.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got like an overseas student, and we'll talk about students in more detail in a moment.
Yeah.
Overseas students, they wouldn't have a credit reference, for example, so you'd be taking a lump sum from them. If you've got somebody who maybe doesn't quite meet affordability, sometimes you'd be taking a little bit more up front. Under the Renters' Rights Bill, you'll be limited to be able to take 1 month's rent only.
Only 1 month?
Only 1 month. And you can only take that once the tenancy's been signed, not before. The problem with that...
What about deposits?
You can take deposit at any point that hasn't been...
How long is the deposit now?
5 weeks worth of rent.
5 weeks?
Yeah. So the main issue you've got there is if you sign on the dotted line with the tenant, they do not pay their first month's rent, you've entered into the tenancy, you still have to hand over the keys and allow occupation, even though they haven't paid the rent.
In the nicest possible way, I know loads of people watch this, that's not going to work, we know what's going to happen, sorry, but that is just stupidity. Bureaucracy gone crazy.
Yes.
Am I fair to say that?
Absolutely.
It doesn't make sense, no one's going to do that.
They're going to have to, otherwise they're going to face a £7,000 fine. So they're going to
Now
have
it's getting
to.
scary.
If they breach it again, then it's a £40,000 fine. You cannot afford to get it wrong under the Renters' Rights Bill.
So literally, you have to time the signing and the money at the same moment. That's the only way.
You can get the contract signed at any point. It doesn't matter whether it's a week before move-in or 2 days before move-in. However, you can't ask for the first month's rent until you've signed.
Can you have a term in the contract that the tenancy is null and void because that, why not?
Because that was something we thought about when it was going through the third reading, but unfortunately that was something that was closed at committee stage, so that loophole was closed. So you can't like have a subject to contract or something like that.
How do we get around this? Because there's got to be subject to checks.
So I think what will happen is landlords will be more vigorous with their referencing. I think referencing companies will be more rigorous with the checks that they do. And I think unfortunately what we will see is landlords will be much more picky. Properties will sit empty for longer because landlords will want the perfect tenants. And what we will actually see is more tenants discriminated against because of their unconventional earnings, 0-hour contracts and things like that. And tenants who are perfect, so you'll basically see a class system when it comes to tenants. The ones in the upper echelons that have got great credit history, a full-time job, this, that and the other, those who maybe have 0-hour contracts or something like that.
And they're going to outlaw 0-hour contracts as well, that's coming through in the Employment's Right Bill.
So it's all a bit of a perfect storm really.
Is there any way of managing this?
There is to a degree. So after the first month of occupation, there's nothing stopping the tenant voluntarily putting their account in credit. So if after the first month the tenant wants to pay 6 months rent up front, that's perfectly acceptable.
Can that be put in the contract?
No. It's got to be a verbal agreement or a handshake.
This is becoming, do you know what, I've seen a lot of people are saying we're going back to the 1970s and Labour government, 70s, too much legislation, too much bureaucracy. It doesn't work, and we're going to go through that cycle again, unfortunately. And I've been telling people that's what's going to happen. Number 2, student tenancies. Enlighten us, please.
So, student tenancies, I think, are the ones that are going to be affected the most under this renters' rights bill. The reason is because most tenancies, when they're students, are put on a joint tenancy. So you've got 5 tenants on a tenancy in an HMO, house of multiple occupation, and 9 times out of 10 they'll always fall out because someone's eaten my cheese, or I don't like John's aftershave or something. Now normally in a fixed term tenancy they're kind of screwed. They've got to stay to the end of the contract. They sort themselves out and they're all friends again. Under the renters' rights bill, one tenant in the joint tenancy will be able to give notice from the day of moving. At any point, they can give 2 months' notice, and that ends the tenancy for everybody.
Wow.
The other issue you've got with student tenancies is this whole rent in advance. Most students would pay from their student bursary their whole academic year up front, or at least 6 months.
Or the terms.
You can't take that anymore.
Wow. They've not really thought this through, have they?
It's not joined up thinking, they've not thought it through.
And so is it likely it should have been an exemption for students and all this, because we're making it very hard for people to actually rent a property?
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's supposed to be made easier, not harder.
Exactly, but the interesting subsidy to that is purpose-built student accommodation, so university halls and things like that, they're exempt from this. So they can continue to have fixed-term tenancies, they can continue to take rent in advance.
Do you know what this sounds like? How the banks are exempt on real estate investment trusts for residential property, which they set up. So it seems like if you're a public body, you can do whatever you want. If you're a private person, you're knackered. Is that fair?
In a nutshell, yeah.
Wow, sorry to depress you, but you've got to know this. This is valuable information. This is why you need to speak to someone like Julie. Hope I'm not speaking too loud and upset Alfie there. And get the value and make sure you cover a lot of different aspects. These are 2 aspects. There's a whole list, and the series that we've been doing with Julie covering the Renters' Right Bill, you'll realise there's loads of different things. I hope you enjoyed the value. Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've got Irfan who runs a property management lettings company, and he's going to give us some insight of what you need to be thinking about. Irfan, thank you for your few minutes on this. What's the key things a landlord should be looking when they're looking to get a letting management company to help them?
Excellent question, Zeke. First of all, thank you for having me. I've got 3 things for landlords. Number 1, tenant selection. Especially with everything happening right now in the Renters' Rights Bill and in the industry, is so important for landlords to get the right type of tenants. And that's where we come in, and we help landlords de-risk the whole investment. So there's various ways of doing this. One of the ways is getting rent and legal protection. Other ways is having a solid inventory. So this is what we specialize in. We've been doing this for many years, and this is where we're also willing to give free advice to landlords who are also self-managing, or they can give us the management. We help them by giving them advice on how to do it the best way. So the first way is tenant selection. The second way is compliance. So when it comes to compliance, we're not just talking about the basic gas safety, electrical safety, and EPC. There's a whole long list of different sorts of checks. Before renting a property out, there's actually 34 boxes.
Let me unpack that. There's a lot of value there, right? So you're helping the tenant on landlord on their journey to get the right tenant in, and there's a number of things that they have to do from a compliance perspective.
100%.
And it's trying to break those up because there's a lot of stuff. And this is why you need to speak to someone who really understands it. And you can see Irfan's saying it. What's the common problems they're finding? You know, what's a big problem, number 1 issue? Irfan, help me. What do they normally say?
Yeah,
just mention that.
So there's a few things. So number 1 is rent arrears. And
Right.
that's the landlord's biggest nightmare.
Of course,
Yeah.
especially with the Renters' Right Bill coming in.
So landlords just want...
How do you help them on that
So
specifically?
when it comes to getting rent in full on time, it's all about setting clear rules and expectations right from the start. Fine, it is written in the tenancy agreement, which is a legally binding document, yet we have so many horror stories. So it's the communication with the tenants from the start, making sure that the pre-qualification, the vetting, the referencing.
Wow.
And that's why I was talking about tenant selection is so important. So having those checks before and then communicating with the tenants. Now when it comes to communicating, it's not just the shallow communication, it's about establishing a deep relationship with the tenants. So not many agents do this, but the renters' rights bill, it's affecting everyone. Yeah, it's called the renters' rights bill. However, everyone is talking to landlords about it. Who's talking to tenants? So what I'm doing, when I go for an inspection, I sit down with the tenants and I explain to them what it means for them. And when we go through this, we're establishing a really strong relationship. So lettings is not just about ticking boxes and being compliant and collecting rent and taking our commission. It's more about relationships, both on the tenant side and the landlord side. Now a lot of agents, what they do is they only focus on the landlord because the landlord is paying the commission. And that's why the whole conversation about the renters' rights bill, everyone is saying landlords, landlords, landlords. But my company, what I specialize in is having a level and a fair playing field. So fine, that we get our commission from the landlord, but the tenant is equally important.
But a good letting agent will bring both together, and that's the key, because ultimately the end customer, although it's the landlord paying you, if they got no tenant, they're not going to pay it.
Exactly.
So much value. How can someone reach out to you, Irfan, get you to help them?
So in social media, I'm active on LinkedIn.
Focus on LinkedIn. So what's the name on LinkedIn?
So it's Irfan Ali Shivji.
Wow. We'll tag Irfan into this post if you're watching this on LinkedIn, and you can contact him on different socials. I hope you got a lot of value, because there's so much there, and this is why you need someone who really understands, got passion, as you can see Irfan has on this, and that can make a huge difference. Thank you so much for listening. Hi everyone, we've got Ingrid and Andy who have given a few minutes here to show they've achieved the dream of financial independence. Thank you, Andy, for giving some time. Thank you, Ingrid.
Thank you, Zane.
And I'm going to get a bit of insight for them so you get some inspiration, motivation, because this is huge. Property has delivered it for you, hasn't it? Because you're now travelling all across the world because of property.
Well, I'd like to think so. We've worked hard to get here, but yeah, we're happy where we are at the moment, so I can't complain.
So tell the audience the number one property strategy that's helped you and in the time span, because people don't know. They always think it's an illusion. It is not possible. So tell us.
So we've diversified over the years, but initially I would say we focused on the kind of buy, refurbish, refinance kind of strategy, on the basis that, simple, buy a property that's run down, do it up and refinance it. We've kept everything that we bought. We've always refinanced to buy new. We keep gearing and leveraging highly because we're at the point of growth. So that's been our strategy for the past 10 years. It did get us out of our day job back 4 years ago. So you've done literally no money down deals in a sense, or very little left in the deal. Yeah, I think
is that fair to say?
I think the no money down deal is a bit of a myth in the sense that you
only pull all your money out.
Yeah.
Keep a bit in.
Yeah, I would say there's always a little bit left in, but generally, if you can get 20% of your 25% deposit back,
it's not bad, is it? That's a result, really. Come on.
Yeah.
Because you're within a short period of time, the ROI, return on investment, is very quick.
Well,
so you're pulling your money, you're going again, and that amount that people leave in, a lot of people don't achieve it. They really don't, and that's probably why you scaled, right?
Yeah, but I think capital growth in general has helped us. As the years tick by.
Capital growth and rental cash flow, or do they all cash flow?
Yeah.
And is there enough margin after financing?
Yeah, always. Yeah, I mean, there aren't many projects that we've said there was a loser, and even the ones that have been bad have kind of like the bad haircut that grows out kind of scenario have done okay in the end. So even the ones that have been, I would say, slow burners have ended up being really good projects for us. So.
I assume you guys invested in knowledge. So did you invest in a lot of knowledge investments?
Few courses.
Yeah, we've done some training, and I think meeting decent people with experience, kind of getting mentors, circulating with the right type of people at network meetings like this.
Wow. And you were mentioning also you had a family. This has given you that stability to now do the things. I know between Ingrid, you've been enjoying the travelling.
Love the travelling. Yep. We try to be abroad 6 months of the year.
Wow! So there may be argument. There may not be non-residents here. It depends on how
No,
that
we are
goes.
residents.
Are you tax residents?
We are.
Ooh, maybe a little valuation. Being wise around that because income tax changes if you get that right. So you've done that. You travelled. You saying to me recently. Where have you been recently?
Japan, Philippines, last year South America.
South America as well. We didn't even speak about that. I went to Brazil for a honeymoon. Have you been? Wow, I liked it.
We didn't go to Brazil. We went to 5, 6 others in South America.
Bolivia, that's the place.
Bolivia. I've been to went to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and then went to Jamaica as well. We did a double whammy, Cop via Miami as well. So we covered all of them. That's before you get the children. Things change. These guys are now on the next stage up. So property, a big thumbs up.
I'd say so. Yeah, you've got to work hard. It's not easy. Like everything, your aspirations are you want to get big return on your investment. So we've worked hard. So we
And
can
it's
now
given
play
us
hard.
a lot of freedom to do what we want.
And how have you, one quick question, because obviously you've done it as a couple, right? How have you supported each other? Because I find a lot of people, because naturally my wife helps me with my business, you have different strengths and different
Definitely,
areas
yeah.
developments.
Yeah.
How have you found that done and how have you not fallen out with each other? That's the big one.
We do at times fall out and want to almost kill each other.
I'm going to show that to my wife later because that happens too much sometimes.
35 years in, we're doing all right. We know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And
Also, we complement each other.
Yeah.
Ingrid's operational detail, flighty, creative,
strategic.
so it does complement each other.
Wow. This is a success story. Rewind, watch this, because this is what you should inspire. Because I'm telling you, financial independence is something you've got to strive through, and these guys have shown that it can happen. Thank you for watching. Thank you guys for sharing that thoughts.
Thank you,
I really
Zee.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
As everyone knows, Albans Property Meet isn't that one of the co-hosts, Craig. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers, Zee.
And Craig's going to give us some insight. Craig, what's on the back of the t-shirt?
So, logoed workwear. So, Craig Shepheard Entrepreneur on the front. And if I spin round, you'll see my various companies. So,
Wow.
Shepheard Property is my buy-to-let. Gallant Developments is my joint venture with Nicholas Woolwork. And
Yeah.
then FM Experts, my facility management consultancy business.
Wow, this is entrepreneur at it constant because he's promoting his business. He's got to do it.
So
Maybe I need a
next
little
week's
logo.
the Property and Entrepreneurs Summit in Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
So I'm going and I'm advertising myself as I walk around and see everybody.
Love it.
And tell them the advantage of getting logoed workwear.
It's tax deductible. You gotta love it because ultimately it's going to be then wholly exclusive and necessary for the business, not dual purpose use, and therefore it's tax deductible.
You can get your company to build your whole wardrobe as long as it's logoed. Then it's logoed workwear because you're advertising your business. It's a tax deductible.
It is because you're proving that it's for the business use, provided the business does that and it makes sense. So I always get the good advice on it. I was going to ask you, you got this project, really interesting. Craig adds huge value. He's talking about a certain project that he's got, that you're investing in a commercial around London Ways. Tell me, what is the unique bit of this project?
Right. So this is a chap who bought this shop
Yeah.
40 years ago, then put the business in the shop,
Right.
and he sold fireplaces. That's,
Yeah.
that's his job. He ran the business for 25 years and then decided to retire.
Yeah.
So he sold the business to another company. So he got a nice chunk of money. We're not divulging how much he got, but a nice chunk
Yeah.
of money. But he retained the building, so he then became a commercial landlord.
Wow.
So he's had £40,000 a year as a passive
Rent.
income for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Nice job. He's in his, let's say, mid-70s.
Right.
But the business has now unfortunately gone into liquidation, so he's now lost his commercial tenant. So he's now deciding to sell the property.
Right.
So I went on a commercial viewing to look at it. Its advertised price is $875,000.
Yeah.
And buying a commercial property is cheaper than buying residential with the commercial
For
stamp
stamp duty, yeah, non-residential rates.
But it's still another £30,000. So you're looking around £900,000 to buy this place. So
Wow.
I've suggested to him that I don't want to buy it.
Listen, so you want to get benefit. So this is like, you're thinking of a JV, you were saying to me. joint
Exactly.
venture.
So this is a really good technique, particularly when somebody isn't desperate for the money. So the guy's well off, he's got other properties, so he's okay. So if somebody owns a building, yes, you can sell the building as it is, but that's not maximising its value. So what I was proposing is that I don't buy the building off him, but he puts it into a joint venture with me. That's when I was going to come and talk to you about tax advice as the right structure to do it. Then I can get development finance. So effectively it's a double fronted shop on the ground floor, and on the left hand side is a 3-bed maisonette. On the right hand side they built a small extension which is just as an office block.
Wow.
So we're proposing to get permitted development to convert the shop into a 3-bed flat, then put in planning.
On that point, the conservation area.
No, outside conservation area.
Perfect.
There's none of that. Don't have to worry about that.
Because they've got more relaxed. Is it a second?
This is the trick.
Is it the main
No,
road?
it's a tertiary road,
Got-
so it's not
that's
the main
why,
thing.
That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, so it's not the main road, but it is a main commuter road into this particular town.
Got it.
So lots and lots of traffic going past.
Wow.
You first of all do the permitted development to convert the shop.
Strategy here.
Yeah, strategy. So then the building, this is on a terrace of shops, but then effectively the right-hand end of it is then residential.
Yes.
Because you've got a 3-bed maisonette, you've got a 3-bed in the double-fronted shop. Then you put in a planning application to extend the office above to the same height as the 3-bed maisonette.
Will you get PD for both of them? Because you're going to get permitted development because you're not changing the frontage at the beginning.
We have to do the extension above to create the second 3-bed maisonette as a planning permission, but you're now doing in planning permission above a residential unit, not a commercial unit. So if you're trying to get planning above a commercial unit, it's trickier. It's not permitted development because you're building it up.
So you're doing PD first,
Yep.
then planning on the top.
Exactly.
Right, so you've got both of those,
Yeah.
and therefore you're going to have 3 units,
Nope.
4 units?
You're missing the cherry on the cake.
Go on.
Behind the unit, he's got a workshop. And at the
Wow.
back of the
Is that
workshop,
a separate unit?
it's separate to the building because in
Right.
between there's, well, let me guess, 3 parking spaces. Oh, that helps with planning permission. So we're going to demolish the workshop and then build 2 one-bedroom apartments, so one above the other. And where he built
Are they new builds then?
that will be a that's new
Separate,
planning permission.
standing alone.
Yeah, standalone.
Will they be able to get into the
Yeah,
property?
because there's an
Don't you
access
love this
road
stuff?
at the back. Security access, because one of the neighbours to the side is a hire company, and they installed their own security barrier, which everybody that has access to the maisonettes has the key. So after 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock when the shop shuts, they lock it because they've got other warehouses where they lock all their spare equipment. So you actually have a secure compound.
Wow. So just recap, so much value. What Craig's talking about is a commercial to residential conversion in stages. So he's going to use permitted development for the bottom, which is currently the retail outlet. And then upstairs, he's going to convert that into residential and use planning to get the higher up of the roof.
So the right-hand side becomes the same height. So from an aesthetic viewpoint, with all
So
these
that
planning
building
offices
will
up-
be 3.
Yeah, so
Downstairs and the 2 upstairs.
yes, you've got 3-bedroom maisonette, 3-bedroom maisonette, 3-bedroom flat,
Perfect.
plus
The-
cherry on the cake, 2 one-bedroom flats behind.
and you know we love the numbers. 875, how much is that?
So this is the thing, that if the guy just sells it as a thing, I then take on all the risk. I have to find 875 plus £30,000, but then all the risk is on me. Well, we're saying, well, the risk is minimised because he maintains the ownership. I put in a charge, an RX1, so that he can't sell it without my permission. That protects me.
That's
from
a legal charge that you do either against property or company and things like this. So
It's exactly the same way as your standard mortgage company. They'll put a charge on your house, so you can't sell it without their permission.
that's it.
It's exactly the same. There's
so
nothing.
that's it. So you do a charge, and then it's the investment that you're going to manage.
Just
and
to give the numbers nice and simple, the NGDV is 1.8 million.
that's gross development value, the sale value of all those components.
We take off all the build costs, all the development costs, and the chap who's selling it, he gets his full 875,000. Plus he gets 30% of the profits.
And how much do you reckon the uplift is after the investment?
He's going to walk away with just under 1.2 million. So he
For
can have
his?
£875,000
How much is it going to
now,
cost you to do all that?
or he can wait 18 months, 12 to 18 months, and have 1.2 million.
But how much is it going to cost you to?
Well, because we're only extending up above 1, and then the build at the back, that's the expensive bit, the workshop at the back, we're going to be all in for less than 400,000.
So
So
you're
the
putting-
profit is going to be, he's going to have 30% of the profit.
Which is 400 plus the 875, so you're looking about what 1.3 million, and then you got 1.8,
That's the
1.9.
NGDV.
So it's about 500,000, and you're going to give him
30% of the profit.
that. So he's getting about 150, isn't he?
So
for
this
my
works
numbers?
really well. If
Okay.
there's people out there with commercial property that want to sell, give us a call.
And you're
we can
helping them.
maximise the value of your property. You put it into a joint venture.
Yeah.
Z will sort out the
There's
efficient
tax
tax
structure,
structures.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
bit complicated, but Z can sort that bit out.
Wow, I'm just blown mind because I'm looking at thing. You've got 1.9. You put another million. You're only actually putting in 400. Did you say
Well,
300, 400?
I just get development
so
finance,
You've
so
got
I
600. Add the financing cost. You're probably making half a mil. He's probably going to get 150 drink on top. He's happy. You made 350. How long period?
Say 18 months. It's a phased project, so we do a bit of permitting
And-
development and then planning.
He's just going to supervise it. Get another team to do it all. Wow. Do you get value like that by talking to people like Craig on Sable's Property Meet?
So this is a great way of
Huge.
not buying property.
But get the value, and all his risk is to make sure the project happens and fund the build and or the conversion, which he's doing through financing. That is huge value, Craig. Love that. That's going to make it. That's St Albans Property Meet June 2025. Cut off. Thank you so much.